Hello again. Time for the press preview. It's our first look at what is on the front pages as they come into us here at Sky. We're checking out the headlines tonight with the political journalist and broadcaster Theo Usherwood and the political correspondent for Politics Ava Santina Evans. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's have a look at some of those front pages for you, beginning with the FT, leading on Beijing's condemnation of evidence released by Sir Keir Starmer in the China spy case. While the Metro goes with Conservative MP Tom Tugendhat's questioning of whose side the Prime Minister is on after witness statements from the case were published. The Guardian reports on the pressure faced by the Director of Public Prosecutions to explain why the trial collapsed. And the Eye leads on a warning from the head of MI5 that Beijing poses a daily threat to Britain's national security, while the Mirror carries the same warning from Sir Ken McCullum. Meanwhile, the Times writes that Labour is being berated both by China and MI5 over the case. The Mail reports that Prince Andrew met the alleged spy master in the collapse case at least 3 times. Andrew is not alleged to be involved in the scandal himself, nor is there any suggestion he was involved in espionage. Same story on front of the Telegraph. Its headline, MI5 chief dismayed by China spy fiasco. The Express looks at the ban imposed on fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv by Birmingham City Council after safety concerns were raised by police. Meanwhile, the Star reports that former England cricketer Freddie Flintoff says he feels guilt over Ricky Hatton's death after the former world champion boxer spoke to him about his mental health. And we're joined tonight by Theo Usherwood and Ava Santina Evans. Great to see you both in the studio this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to look into this spy case in a bit more detail. I have to say, Ava, it's pretty complicated, isn't it? And I think people at home may well be wondering what the fuss is all about. Just explain to us why it is important and why we should care.
I think you took my line from me there, because it's actually a very difficult story to get people interested in, but the papers are trying very hard this evening. So this was a case that was, brought first. There was a charge by the CPS back in April of these 2 men who were accused of spying for Beijing. One was a parliamentary researcher and the other was a teacher. And they were accused of handing over sensitive information over to Beijing. Later, about a year and a half later, the case was dropped because there was not sufficient evidence. Now, many political actors are convinced that the Labour government has something to do with this and that is the fault of Keir Starmer because he refused to describe China as an enemy of the United Kingdom, and therefore the case fell apart. Keir Starmer is fighting those accusations vehemently, but the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, is really hoping that that is the case because she's hoping to pick up a few political points.
Yes, well summarised. And both men, of course, deny any wrongdoing whatsoever as that case, as you say, has collapsed. That's on the front of all the papers. The Daily Telegraph saying MI5 chief dismayed by China spy fiasco. And Theo, there are lots of political ramifications as a result of all of this. MI5's boss saying that he's frustrated this case has collapsed. Who do you think is to blame? Because the opposition obviously are saying it's the government's fault, but also some are saying it's the CPS's fault.
Yes, and we learn that Stephen Parkinson, the Director of Public Prosecutions, is going to be summoned before MPs by a number of chair of various select committees to answer questions about exactly how this decision was taken. Of course, he said that the evidence wasn't 5% there. There's obviously a lot of scrutiny on the Deputy National Security Advisor as well about why further evidence wasn't provided to the CPS and whether it was known within government that further evidence was going to be required. But in terms of this whole scandal, and of course we've had the spy chief at MI5, Sir Ken McCullum, speaking up today just about the threat that China poses, I think it's probably been quite a good couple of days for the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Focus now starting to shift towards the DPP, shifting away from number 10. And I think whilst there was a fierce debate in the House of Commons this afternoon, and Tom Tugendhat, the former Security Minister, was asking the question, whose side are you on? To your point, this is an important story, but it's very difficult, I think, for members of the public, without knowing exactly how China has infiltrated security, what has been going on. And of course, there's the consideration you've got to bring in operational security of investigations taking place, any criminal proceedings that might be ongoing with other cases, and the Official Secrets Act, just 3 reasons why we wouldn't know the exact involvement of China. It's very difficult, I think, for this story to land with the wider public. And I think if you think to what did for Boris Johnson, whether it was the COVID inquiry, what came with the expenses scandal after the 2008 financial crash, the duck ponds, this story doesn't have that because, of course, it's all shrouded in mystery. And I think for that reason, number 10, wouldn't want to say never, but I think number 10 will be pretty pleased with the way the last 24 hours has gone.
And often we can rely on the tabloids, can't we, to sort of get to the nub of it and perhaps get to why we should be concerned. And the Mirror does that pretty well. China is a threat every day, Ava, talking about the new MI5 chief. It's Ken McCallum's words today. And I suppose, because we don't know a huge amount of the detail, it is hard to perhaps get a real grasp on why China is a threat. But certainly, day to day, at the moment, we are seeing more and more cyber attacks, aren't we? We are seeing companies, industries, transport networks brought to a halt as a result of foreign actors. Now, we're not saying China is behind every one, but certainly you can understand why the MI5 boss is coming out and saying, look, we have to take this seriously.
Well, absolutely. And actually, this is a conversation that various parliamentarians have had for a number of years now. If you think about the technology that you're using every single day, a lot of those are imported from China. If you are a parent who is watching this news review right now, your children are probably upstairs using TikTok, which is a social media platform that is in part owned by the Chinese state. And that has been banned from government ministers' phones now for a number of years inside Parliament because it was suspected, although never proved, that perhaps China was spying through the camera lens. If you had allowed access to the app via the app to your camera, that China was able to look at your surroundings, and therefore the inside of Parliament was off limits. It was banned off of MPs' phones. So this is not, this isn't really a secret. And I think that the one thing, I was on the way here and I was talking to the taxi driver about this, and he sort of said he was very bored of the story because it's something we've been warned about for a number of years, but no one can quite explain why China is a threat. And why is it all right that I'm allowed to use an iPhone, but if someone passes over a document, I'm meant to be extraordinarily concerned? So I'm not trying to sort of draw a false equivalence, but I do think it might be helpful for government officials or even the chief of MI5 to give a clearer picture of what we should be looking out for.
I suppose that's half of the problem, isn't it? That, we're nervous about China, we're worried about their capabilities when it comes to this sort of thing, but also we need them because they provide us with cheap stuff and they help with the nation's infrastructure.
Well, you raise a very important point, and that is that when you compare China to other states that are potentially a threat to this country, like Iran or Russia, we have a government for the first time since David Cameron and George Osborne that is looking to embrace China, that is looking to find a way to curry favour with the Chinese. And of course, the accusation from the Tories is that this case was ultimately shelved because there was a political decision within number 10 not to upset the Chinese. It turns out, and we'll come on to what's been discussed on the FT and the Times, that the Chinese are offended anyway by the furore that has been caused. But we are facing, this government is trying to face towards China pressure from the Treasury to secure economic growth. Chinese economy is obviously seen as very important to do that. Relations are very important in that. And the technology, we had the row going back to, I think it was 2018, about Huawei being used to build, their components being used in our 5G infrastructure network and what that would mean. And the fear is that the Chinese are always looking, the Chinese Communist Party, always looking to inveigle themselves within the infrastructure of this country, and we leave ourselves incredibly vulnerable as technology develops to the government potentially flicking a switch here, there and everywhere and causing the breakdown of whether it be our transport system, our NHS, or just our internet reception. And that's why I think this Chinese threat particularly is different from, say, the threat from Russia or Iran.
Yeah, really interesting. And we'll just finish with The Guardian, Ava, before the break, because obviously there are now going to be various inquiries into all of this.
Yes, so this is the Director of Public Prosecutions. He has now been written to by a number of heads of different select committees. The sort of the reasoning behind this, or the answer that they're hoping to probe, is what was sort of the key component of why the trial collapsed? Why did the, excuse me, not the trial, why did the case collapse? Why was it never actually brought properly to trial? And this is this is the chairs of the Home Affairs, Foreign Affairs, Justice and National Security committees all hyping pressure onto the DPP. It's a very difficult story there because you're seeing the blame being, sort of passed between the Conservatives and the Labour government, and that is because this originally started under the previous Conservative government and their unwillingness to name China as a state that threatened the United Kingdom. That decision was obviously sort of sat upon by the Labour government and was never properly made. So it's sort of like these sort of political hits, I don't really think they are going to land. It'll just sort of, at the end of the day, I think the public will just view this as general government incompetence.
OK. All right, we'll leave it there. We can talk more about this after 11 o'clock. Thank you both very much. Coming up after the break, a row brewing in Birmingham as fans of an Israeli football team are banned from Aston Villa's stadium. Discussing that in a couple of minutes.
Sky News has been given exclusive data showing every Palestinian who has been killed in Gaza since the war began. Our analysis of this pattern in the killings suggests that entire families were wiped out in their homes or shelters. The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparent journalism from Sky News. We located footage of the aid drop to a tent camp in central Gaza.
These airdrops are falling in extremely populated areas.
We combine traditional reporting with advanced analysis of satellite imagery, social media, and other open source information. Now, this is just one of the strikes and incidents we've been able to geolocate across Gaza. Sky News has found Nazi speeches and marching music have been used as background sound on tens of thousands of TikTok videos as far-right groups try and spread their message. Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. There's no evidence yet of foul play at Heathrow, but shows weaknesses that enemies could take advantage of. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. Supporters say it saves lives and projects American power and influence.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
It's a racial association. I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. Part 2 of the press preview. Still with me in the studio, Theo Usherwood and Ava Santina Evans. Theo, why don't you kick things off for us, talking about Aston Villa banning Israeli fans over unrest fears. And this has kicked up quite the storm.
Yes, it's the front page of the Daily Express, you say, and this is supporters of Maccabi Tel Aviv. They've been barred from their attending the fixture at Aston Villa Park next month for the Europa League fixture after it was classified by police as a high-risk event. Kemi Badenoch has come out, the Conservative leader, and described the decision as a national disgrace, saying that it sends a horrendous and shameful message. The Prime Minister has obviously expressed his disappointment, but the criticism is of Keir Starmer is, well, you know, you said you would ensure that Jews can be safe anywhere in this country, but clearly they are not safe if the fans wouldn't be safe if they are to attend this game. I should say that Ayub Khan, who is the MP, one of the MPs in Birmingham, launched a petition, and he said that he's welcomed the decision, saying that because of so much hostility, it was only right that there be drastic measures. And I think it's I think it does send, I think, the wrong message, and especially after what happened in Manchester a couple of weeks ago, that the Prime Minister, our political leaders, made a promise, and I think for many in the Jewish community, that sounded like a hollow promise that Jews in this country would be safe, and if they can't attend a football match, and we have a ceasefire now in the Middle East, then I think that's down to probably a lack of political leadership that has been allowed to fester for too long.
Do you think that's right, Ava, or do you think it's like this is just a local decision made by local police and the local authority, and maybe potentially it was the wrong decision?
I think that the problem you've got is UEFA, who have commented tonight, they have given a comment to Reuters and essentially just washed their hands of the decision. This is a repeated pattern with that football governing body where they don't seem to be particularly interested in tackling racism or prejudice in football, no matter who it is. I mean, one particular example that comes to mind, I think it was Vinicius, who was the Arsenal player, the Brazilian footballer. There was an incident, and I will be corrected, I know people will comment in, I think it was Atletico Madrid. He suffered extraordinary abuse at the hands of the fans, and UEFA did very little to combat that. And, you know, if we even look in our own country, we look at the response that, say, certain Conservative leaders have had to taking the knee, or UEFA's ban on wearing the LGBTQ flag during football games. There seems to be this reticence to make football an inclusive game. And so when an example like this happens, it is totally feasible to me how this has come about, because there has, you know, despite all of the campaigns of kick it out and make football inclusive, there isn't actually really a proper push to make it so.
Yeah, OK. UEFA saying that local authorities are responsible for these decisions after thorough risk assessments. Let's just finish out very quickly with another story on the front of the Telegraph. Asset-rich pensioners in crosshairs for Reeve's budget tax raid, Theo.
Yes, this comes from the Chancellor's comments at the International Monetary Fund in Washington today, saying, and she said, those with the broadest shoulders should pay their fair of tax. And you can see through my actions last year at the budget. She then goes on to say wealth is obviously different from income, so wealth is not about your annual salary, which is seen as an indication that the Chancellor, of course, Labour have those pledges not to increase income tax, VAT or national insurance for employees, but they are going to have to fill a black hole of around £30 billion, and it's looking like pensioners is one area where the Chancellor is now looking to try and make a hit in order to fill that black hole.
Yeah, Ava?
Yes, this is the keeping to their original fiscal rules, abiding with the manifesto of not taxing working people, rather going after assets. But also, I think that should give some confidence to pensioners, because judging by those comments, it does seem that she is not going to impose a tax on the state pension, which was thought, because it has now crossed the threshold into which perhaps they should be paying tax in line with every other working person in this country. Perhaps she is not going to do that, and she will just go for larger assets. But it'd be rather surprising if she went for the $500,000 mark. It's far more likely that she would look towards the $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a huge day, isn't it, the budget? Yeah. I mean, what are your expectations?
She's got to keep the markets happy. So she's going to have to keep to her fiscal rules. So she's not going, and she doesn't have the wriggle room with her own backbenchers in order to the manoeuvrability. We saw what happened with the welfare cuts that never happened back in the summer. So she's not going to be able to cut spending. So that just leaves tax rises, and she's got to fill that black hole. But of course, those main three taxes, they make up 75% of the tax take or thereabouts. And the danger that the Chancellor has, and by dint the Prime Minister, is that if she starts to look at raising taxes in other areas, then automatically behaviour is going to change, and that actually she'll end up deterring, whether it might be investment, whether it might be people saving, but people will alter their decisions, and then it will become, we're going to continue in this doom loop of the Chancellor continually trying to balance the books by putting up taxes, and that's not good for, ultimately, economic growth, which is what she wants.
Yeah, which is what the IFS is warning of, and she's saying, the IFS saying she's got to be bold, and if you are bold, you're going to make some people angry.
Well, if you look at the first budget that she presented, some economists suggested that she was rather shy, particularly when you looked at capital gains tax. That was only an incremental rise in which she was charging capital gains. Most, I suppose, more left-wing, but actually this is now broadening out, economists would suggest that capital gains should be in line with income tax. I don't think she'll be as bold as that, but making those sort of moves, you might see people caught off guard, and perhaps they won't have time to move their money before the Treasury is able to recoup some cash.
Yeah, and as always, Matt in the Telegraph has pulled a blinder. He's got a picture of the Chinese Ministry of State Security discussing with one of his underlings those poor UK citizens. Have you seen this budget that Rachel Reeves will deliver next month? Apparently the Chinese spies know what's in the budget already. Theo, Ava, thank you both very much indeed. We will chat more about today's stories and the front pages after 11 o'clock.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.